This is Domain 9, Columbus and the Pilgrims, Lesson 4, Not the Indies. To start us off, the vocabulary words are below. Courage, that means bravery or strength in the face of danger or difficulty. For example, the firemen showed courage when fighting a fire. Our next word is discovered. That means found or learned something first. For example, the astronaut discovered a strange rock on the moon. Our next word is explore, and that's to search or travel to discover something new. For example, Maria wants to explore the North Pole. And our last word today is native, and that means born in a place or originally from somewhere. For example, many people were so native to South America before the Spanish arrived. To start us off with our read aloud, this is where we begin. Christopher Columbus and his crew were proud and excited when they reached land. They thought that they had crossed the mighty Atlantic Ocean and found Asia. They felt sure that now gold and rare spices from the Indies were within reach. They thought that the king and queen would reward them for their courage or bravery, and for making Spain the most powerful nation in Europe. They told each other, when we get back to Spain, we'll be rich. They had no idea that the people they would soon meet had never seen Europeans. Columbus's men followed him into the wooded island. The people of the island did not fit the descriptions of people in Asia, but Columbus was still convinced that they had reached their intended destination, declaring, "We made it to the Indies." He named the people of the island Indians. But things did not work out quite as Columbus and his men expected. The so-called Indians did not seem to have much gold beyond what they were wearing. The only gold Columbus saw was the jewelry worn by the native people, or the people that lived in the place from the native land. Columbus gestured to them to try to learn where the gold came from. They pointed off in the distance toward the other islands. So after trading objects from their ships for the gold rings, Columbus and his men prepared to sail onward. The friendly natives helped them gather fresh fruit and clean water just before leaving. Columbus gave the island a name. He called it San Salvador. Columbus took the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria farther west through the warm blue-green waters. They found more islands, passing many and landing on a few. They lowered their sails once more off the coast of a larger island, which Columbus named Hispaniola. There, Columbus told his sailors, "We will continue to explore tomorrow. Right now I am weary. I will rest in my cabin. Wake me up if there is anything I need to know." But the sailors too were relaxed and sleepy in the warmth of the sun, and they fell asleep on the deck. A breeze came up, and the waves began to wash lazily against the side of the Santa Maria. Then the waves became stronger, and slowly they began to move the ship. Still, Columbus and his crew slept until suddenly, crash! The Santa Maria struck a huge, sharp rocks off the coast of the island. Columbus and his sailors awoke in a hurry. They rushed to look, but they were too late. They saw a large gaping hole in the side of the Santa Maria. Their ship was sinking. All they could do was signal the Pinta for help, gather everything together, and hope to move to the other ship. Columbus's flagship, the Santa Maria, sank slowly into the calm blue-green water that had seemed so safe and peaceful. As it did so, friendly people from the island came paddling out in canoes and generously helped move whatever could be saved from the ship onto the shore. Columbus had lost one of his 3 ships. Still, he felt he would return to a hero's welcome in Spain if he could just find gold. He noticed that people who had been helping him wore more gold than the people on the other islands he had visited. When he asked them using gestures and movements, they signed to Columbus that their gold came from the high heavenly forested mountains in the center of their island. At last, Columbus had found a source for gold. He would start a gold mine in the mountains of Hispaniola. The natives and Spanish sailors brought wood from the wrecked ships ashore and built a fort. Columbus chose some of his men to remain there while the others returned with him to Spain. Aboard the Pinta and the Nina, in preparation for their journey back to Spain, he traded objects from his ships for some of the natives' gold jewelry, and he put the gold jewelry into a chest to take back to Spain. Columbus and his sailors gathered unknown fruits and brightly colored tropical parrots to show King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. The journey home was stormy, and more than once the men thought they would not get home alive. At last the storms ended, and the two ships reached Spain. The families of the sailors were overjoyed that their husbands and fathers had lived through the adventure. They danced in excitement when they saw the chest full of gold, telling one another, "We'll all be rich. We will all be great lords and ladies and live in palaces." After a long journey, the group reached the palace of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Columbus told them his story and gave them the treasures he had brought back to them. King Ferdinand, who had been so difficult to convince, now smiled and congratulated Columbus and his men. Queen Isabella, who had always been friendlier than King Ferdinand, laughed and smiled and applauded throughout Columbus's story. And when he showed them the gold, the royal couple was thrilled. "You have done all that you promised," they said. Naturally, when Columbus told them that he wished to go back and make more discoveries, King Ferdinand said, "Of course, you will return to Hispaniola as governor of the island. You will be in charge of all the western lands that you have discovered and claimed for us. And this time we will give you many ships to command, not just 3. But first, you must rest and spend time here as our guest." Meanwhile, Columbus thought, "All I have worked for and dreamed of all these years has come true. I am a friend of the king and queen. I will be rich and important. I will be famous and as the man who found another way to Asia." So that was the end of our read aloud portion. Now we are going to go into the questions. So, number 1, in what year did Columbus make his voyage? 1492. What were the names of Columbus's 3 ships? The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Which ship did Columbus travel on? The Santa Maria. What happened to the Santa Maria? The Santa Maria crashed into rocks and it sank. What kind of queen helped Columbus? What king and queen helped Columbus with his voyage? King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. They ruled Spain. How might the king and queen feel knowing that the ships they gave Columbus sank? They might be mad or angry. What was Columbus determined to find as he explored several islands? Gold. Were there people living in the place where Columbus's ships landed? Yes. What did Columbus call the native people he met? Indians. Why? He thought he was in the Indies. Where did he really land? On an island off the coasts of North and South America. Number 5. What did Columbus bring back to show the king and queen? Gold, fruits, and tropical parrots. Number 6. What did the king and queen do to reward Columbus for his offerings? They made him the governor of the lands he discovered, and they said that he could sail again, and maybe even give him more ships this time to go instead of just having 3. This is the end of Read Aloud 4, Not the Indies, from Domain 9, Columbus and the Pilgrims. Thanks for listening.